The night air was heavy, carrying the scent of rain and ash from the distant city fires. Elena Gray sat on the edge of her father's worn leather armchair, her fingers twisting in her lap. The room around her seemed smaller than she remembered, shadows stretching across the walls as though waiting to whisper secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Her mother, pale and trembling, stood near the window, her gaze fixed on a street that held nothing but flickering lamplight and memories too painful to confront. Her brother, Lucas, paced restlessly behind the dining table, each step measured but tense, as if the floor beneath him might crumble at any moment. And her father, he sat across from her, his face unreadable, hands resting on a thick folder of papers that smelled faintly of ink and desperation. The silence in the room was suffocating, broken only by the soft tick of the old grandfather clock in the corner. Elena. Her father's voice came, low, carrying a weight that pressed on her chest. "You know why you're here," she swallowed, feeling the lump in her throat grow heavy. "I think so," she whispered. "But I need to know. Who is this man?" Her father's hand trembled slightly as he rested it on the folder. "It doesn't matter. What matters is that this will save us. Your brother, the house, everything. One signature, and the debts are gone." Elena shook her head, confusion and fear warring within her. "But why me? Why would he want me?" Her mother's eyes flickered toward her, wide and wet with unspoken guilt. She couldn't answer. None of them could. The name her father finally spoke landed like a thunderclap in the stillness. Alexander Kane. Elena's breath caught. The name was known in every corner of the country, whispered like a warning. Kane Industries, a vast empire stretching from skyscrapers in New York to tech labs in Silicon Valley. Alexander Kane was a man whose reputation was built on precision, ruthlessness, and control. A man who bent governments and crushed rivals without a second thought. And now, he wanted her. Her mind screamed at the injustice, the absurdity. How could her life, her freedom, be something that could be bargained for like a commodity? Her father, once a man of pride and warmth, now appeared as a stranger, his eyes hollow with the weight of the choice he had made. "You have to sign," he said finally, his voice breaking, almost pleading. "For Lucas, for us, for survival." Elena's hand hovered above the pen, her pulse hammering in her ears. The decision was simple in theory, but impossible in heart. Sign and surrender everything, or refuse and watch her family fall apart. Her father's gaze softened for a fraction of a second. "We all fall if you don't." Tears blurred her vision as she pressed the pen to the paper. The ink slid smoothly across the surface, etching the end of her freedom. The room felt colder, emptier, as if life itself had slipped through her fingers. A black car waited outside, engine silent but ominous. The driver, a man in a dark suit with expressionless eyes, opened the door. Elena stepped in, the city disappearing behind her, replaced by the weight of uncertainty. Ahead lay the unknown, Alexander Kane's world, a world built on fear, power, and secrets. And deep down, Elena knew that nothing, not her past, not her family, not her courage, could prepare her for what awaited. But even as fear gripped her heart, a tiny spark of determination ignited. She would survive. She would endure. And somehow, she would find her own strength in the shadows of a man who never intended to fall in love. Elena's heart pounded as the car slowed, tires crunching over gravel that led to a mansion unlike anything she had ever imagined. Towering spires of dark stone rose against the gray sky, and windows glimmered like eyes watching her every move. The gate closed silently behind them, leaving her feeling trapped, yet strangely exposed. As though the estate itself was alive, observing her, the driver led her inside without a word. The hallway stretched endlessly, lit by chandeliers that cast fragile golden light on walls lined with priceless art. Everything smelled of polished wood, faint perfume, and power. Elena's stomach twisted. This was a world she had only seen in magazines, a world of wealth and dominance, yet it felt cold, unwelcoming, and dangerous. Then she saw him. Alexander Kane stepped from the shadows, tall, impeccably dressed, with eyes sharp as blades. He didn't smile. He didn't move toward her. He simply regarded her with a calm that unsettled her more than anger ever could. "Welcome," he said, his voice smooth but edged with authority. It carried weight, the the kind that made a person weigh every word before speaking. Elena's instinct screamed at her to flee, but where could she go? She forced herself to stand tall, refusing to shrink beneath his gaze. I'm here, she said, voice steadier than she felt. Kane studied her for a long moment, then nodded almost imperceptibly. Good, I like courage. It makes life more interesting. His words sent a chill down her spine. But beneath them, Elena sensed a hint of curiosity, a crack in the armor of a man who seemed untouchable. As the doors closed behind her, she realized that her life had changed forever. This wasn't just about survival anymore. Every step forward in this mansion, every shadow that moved along the walls, would test her resolve, her courage, and perhaps something she didn't yet understand, her own capacity to trust, to fight, and maybe even to hope. Elena didn't know it yet, but the man who seemed invincible, cold, and unyielding was about to learn that even the hardest hearts could be challenged, and that love, in the most unexpected way, might just be the force that neither of them saw coming. Elena spent her first night in the mansion wide awake, staring at the ceiling of her opulent yet cold room. Every sound, the distant hum of machinery, the faint creak of floors, even the soft rustle of curtains seemed magnified, as if the house itself were listening. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to draw warmth from her own body, but nothing could shield her from the gnawing uncertainty of what awaited her each day. Breakfast was silent. Kane appeared at the long table, calm and precise, his presence commanding the space without a single raised voice. Elena noticed the way he studied her as she ate, assessing every movement with a calculated focus that made her acutely aware of every choice she made. She wanted to shrink, to hide, but some small fire inside her refused. She would not be broken, not so easily. Days passed, each filled with rules, protocols, and subtle tests of her composure. Elena learned quickly that nothing was casual in this world, not a glance, not a gesture, not a word. Kane's expectations were high, and the pressure relentless. Yet in the midst of fear, she discovered something unexpected, her own resilience. The way she adapted, observed, and responded began to earn not approval, but a begrudging recognition from him. One afternoon, she found herself alone in the library, a cavernous room filled with the scent of leather-bound books and polished wood. Kane appeared at the doorway, silently, watching her as she traced her fingers along the spines of ancient tomes. You have curiosity, he remarked, voice low. Not many do in my world. Elena looked up, meeting his gaze. Curiosity keeps us alive, she said softly. The words startled even her, carrying more weight than she expected. Kane's lips twitched, almost imperceptibly, as if he were acknowledging something he rarely admitted, that she had made an impression. The mansion, once intimidating, began to feel less like a prison and more like a proving ground. Elena realized that survival wasn't just about obeying rules, it was about finding strength in fear, courage in uncertainty, and the quiet power in standing her ground. And somewhere deep within, a flicker of hope took root, a whisper that perhaps, even in a place ruled by fear and control, something extraordinary could bloom, and that her life, though irrevocably changed, might hold surprises that no one, not even Alexander Kane, could predict. Elena had begun to understand the rhythm of the mansion, the quiet corridors, the guarded conversations, the way Kane moved with effortless control through every room. But nothing could have prepared her for the first moment when he truly noticed her, not as a guest, not as someone under his roof, but as a person. It happened one evening in the private garden, a place she had discovered hidden behind a tall arch of ivy. The moonlight spilled over marble fountains and fragrant flowers, casting a serene glow that made the world outside feel impossibly distant. Kane was there, leaning against a stone railing, watching her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. You've changed, he said without preamble. His voice was softer, almost reflective, and it caught her off guard. You're not just surviving anymore. You're learning to thrive. Elena's heart fluttered. She wasn't sure whether to feel fear or something more complicated. I have to, she replied quietly. There's no other choice. Kane stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet magnetic. Most people break under pressure. Most people crumble when everything they knew disappears. But you've found a way to stand taller in the ruins. His gaze lingered, And for the first time, Elena felt that beneath the calculated, intimidating exterior, there was recognition, perhaps even respect. That night, something shifted. The air between them held a tension neither of them fully understood. Elena realized that Cain's power was not just in wealth or control. It was in his ability to see people, truly see them, in ways that could disarm and unsettle. And yet, she sensed vulnerability too, a flicker of something human buried beneath layers of perfection and command. For the first time, Elena felt a dangerous curiosity not about him as a threat, but about him as a person. Could someone so untouchable, so feared, feel the same spark she felt deep within herself? The garden's shadows grew long, mirroring the questions now taking root in her mind. She had come here to survive, to endure, to protect what little remained of her past. But now a new challenge emerged, understanding a man who seemed invincible, and facing the possibility that the walls around her own heart might start to crumble. And as Cain turned and walked away, leaving her in the moonlight, Elena realized that her story was no longer just about survival. It was about courage, connection, and the unexpected ways two lives, bound by fear and circumstance, could collide and perhaps change everything. Elena had begun to feel the weight of the mansion in a new way, the quiet corridors, no longer just intimidating, but filled with the tension of unspoken truths. Cain's presence lingered like a shadow she couldn't escape, yet she found herself drawn to it, compelled by a curiosity she didn't fully understand. She discovered pieces of him in the smallest gestures, a hand that lingered on a book he offered, a voice that softened in rare, fleeting moments, eyes that betrayed memories of loss. One evening, a sudden alarm shattered the calm. Security breaches, whispers of threats from rivals who coveted Cain's empire, and reminders that danger lurked not only in the world outside, but within the fragile balance of power he had built. Elena watched as Cain moved through the chaos, composed yet alert, orchestrating every response with a precision that made her heart pound. He was formidable, untouchable, yet in the way he protected his people and unexpectedly, her she saw on other side, a man capable of loyalty, of care, of sacrifice. That night, in the stillness after the storm, Elena found herself standing in the same garden where they had first spoken in the moonlight. Cain appeared silently, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her knees weaken. "You've grown," he said, voice low, almost confessional. "You've survived what would have destroyed most." Elena looked up, the moon casting silver light across her determined face. "We survived by finding strength we didn't know we had," she whispered. Even in the darkest places, for the first time, Cain's carefully constructed walls showed cracks. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, a gesture so intimate it made her pulse race. "You're different," he admitted, the words barely audible. "You make me see things I've spent years avoiding." In that moment, Elena realized the truth. Courage and resilience were contagious, and even the strongest, most untouchable people could be moved by the strength of another. Her presence, her determination, had begun to awaken something long buried within him, and for the first time, she understood that her journey was no longer just about surviving or enduring. It was about inspiring, about challenging the impossible, and about proving that love, when unexpected, could change the course of even the most controlled life. As they stood in the garden, shadows dancing around them, Elena felt a surge of hope. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown, and discovered that even in the coldest, most formidable places, light and connection could take root, transforming lives in ways neither of them had anticipated. Elena stood at the edge of the balcony, the wind tugging at her hair, the city lights below sparkling like scattered stars. The mansion, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now felt like a world she had helped shape, an arena where courage, resilience, and unexpected connections had rewritten the rules of her life. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the impossible choices, the long nights of doubt, the quiet determination that refused to bend under pressure. Each moment had led to this, the revelation that survival was never enough. True strength came from embracing hope, trusting oneself, and daring to believe in the impossible. Cain appeared beside her, his presence steady, unwavering, yet softened in ways she had never imagined. For the first time, Elena saw him not just as the untouchable titan the world feared, but as a man capable of vulnerability, reflection, and change. "You've taught me more than you realize," he said, his voice carrying both gratitude and admiration. "I've spent years believing power alone defined me, but you've shown me that courage and heart are far greater forces." Elena turned to face him, the moonlight reflecting in her eyes, a mixture of wonder and determination. "We all have the power to transform," she replied, her voice firm yet gentle. "Even when life seems impossible, even when fear threatens to control us, we can choose hope, choose to rise, choose to fight for something greater than ourselves." For the first time, Cain reached for her hand without hesitation, an unspoken promise of partnership, respect, and the beginning of something neither had anticipated. The mansion, once a fortress of isolation, now felt alive with possibility. Their shared experiences, the challenges overcome, and the vulnerabilities revealed had forged a connection neither could ignore, a bond born of courage, endurance, and the undeniable spark of unexpected love. Elena realized that the life she had feared was only the beginning. She had faced darkness and emerged stronger, braver, and ready to embrace whatever came next. And in that moment, standing beside Cain, she understood the most important truth, that even in the harshest of circumstances, the human spirit could triumph, love could flourish in the unlikeliest places, and a single choice to fight for oneself could transform not just a life, but the world around it. The wind whispered through the balcony, carrying with it the promise of new beginnings, and Elena smiled, knowing that she had not only survived, she had conquered, inspired, and discovered the extraordinary strength within herself that would guide every step of the future.